Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Friday. I hope you all have had a fantastic week and gearing up for a wonderful holiday season. I mean, there's absolutely no reason why that shouldn't happen. And yeah, so welcome to Aquarius Rising. And I know we have Leo on a week early today because I'm not sure that I'm going to be around next week this time. I'm taking a little road trip myself. So looking forward to that. But yeah, and really looking forward to our conversation tonight with you, Mr. Zagami. How are you today?
Doing great and expecting to live another great Christmas here in the United States of America, where at least I know I'm free, as the popular song says. And I was supposed to go back to Italy, but unfortunately, as I told you before we started the show, the police went and interrogated my mother, so they're still after me, even if I'm an American citizen now. And of course, the statute of limitations should apply sooner or later on the cases that were open against me to silence me as a journalist. But as you know, this is part of the business. So when you are exposing the Vatican in particular in a place like Italy, which is very much connected to the power of the Holy See, which dominates the whole political scene. So if you expose the Vatican, you will eventually get in trouble with the Italian state. But
Well,
you know,
absolutely.
today we are discussing the opening of the portals during
Yeah, crazy. I mean, it's just, I've been looking at that and then these drones. It's, I can't help but think, if we just look from 4 years ago when the pandemic began, right? Um, to having drones. And at this time now, Trump being re-elected, right? There's all these crazy drones and things going on. I mean, now the Pope Francis wants to open up 5 portals at this time. I mean, sacred doors, including
it needs to
one.
be noted that sacred portals are not the classical door. They are portals. They are symbolic, and they are to be opened because, of course, he has inaugurated the Jubilee. And these kind of rituals have been performed for a long time in the Vatican. And around Rome, because the portals are placed all around Rome, which used to be all Vatican territory back in the days. Now, of course, the Vatican is restricted to a 900 residents, a much smaller state within the state of Italy. But back in the days, they used to control the whole of central Italy. Catholicism has celebrated the Jubilee since the year 1300. And at times, of course, this has become also a way to bring money and attention to the Vatican. The element of the Holy Door is an element, like I said, very symbolic, that was introduced in 1423. And although the official website for the Jubilee says 1425, it is 1423. And the whole thing of opening these sacred portals is for a specific blessing. Also, these portals, when they are closed and they are open, they actually are, they have they actually have craftsmen who sealed them like they were closing a wall of a house, and each of the bricks is then written on a special prayer or a special name and stuff. Then it's given as a gift once it's reopened. So we have a tradition, but a tradition that is, of course, also connected to the underworld, because these kind of symbolic doors have been existing since Egyptian times. In particular, in ancient Egypt, we have this symbolism of the doors, which in practice don't lead to anywhere. They are just the facade of the door at times, not even an entrance to, but it's a symbolic entrance to the underworld. So today with you, we have decided to touch on this subject, touch also, of course, on the latest UAP and drones frenzy, which is touching the United States of America. So we have
crazy.
A lot to discuss.
I was actually, someone sent me something a few days ago where in this podcast, and I was trying to find it, but I get so much stuff sometimes, and I just could not remember on which of my platforms they sent it to me. But they apparently 50 of these drones were actually coming out of the water. So
yes, they were in Ocean County in New Jersey. They were spotted by also by officers. There seems to be still these drones around, but in the last 2 days, the media here in America has downplayed the whole thing, and basically with the usual mantra, there's nothing to see here, let's carry on. Because it seems like they were not capable of giving a reasonable explanation. And so the conspiracy world went, light up with a billion different conspiracy theories. However, the most credible, as I have myself outlined in my own show, and also in the work that I do, as you know, with leozagami.com, trying with my articles to keep people updated with everything that is happening around. I think that honestly, either we are in front of a government survey of some kind, or a government hunt of something, and they've been talking about radioactive material. And then there is the possibility, of course, of foreign actors, which is been often referred to a possibility of Russia or Iran. Now, let's not forget that these drones started to appear on the 18th of November. On the 20th of November, they were already appearing also on Great Britain, on 3 military bases, US military bases in Great Britain, and later on also in Germany, in Ramstein and other military bases. So it seems like more of a affair that has to do with the terrestrial geopolitical interests and conflicts than rather an extraterrestrial affair. However, we also know that there has been a lot of talks of UAPs, which are different from drones, and they are called this way, but they used to be called UFOs. And we know that they have capacities and singularities which are not possible for our human technology as we know it today. So there has been in Oregon or in other places in the US in the last few days, even pilots talking about these UAPs going in front of their planes, creating problems. The solution that at the moment is being given in New Jersey and the state of New York is to simply close the whole aerospace for drones. So they have said that there's nothing to see here and they shouldn't be worried, but at the same time, they're closing the airspace for drones. So I don't know. I mean, it seems a bit you see, that they're not really being completely honest. And so people will always have to understand that when it comes to UAPs and UFOs, they started to appear and to intensify their appearance after a sacred portal, maybe of a different nature from the one I hope that the Pope is opening, was opened here in the Mojave Desert by Aleister Crowley's practitioners and members of the OTO. And that is something I talked about in my book, The Invisible Master. However, Invisible Masters, which is something that has to do with how since ancient times we have always been opening portals. So that's why portals, the Egyptian tombs contained often this false door, this sacred portal that was said to have this life force, this ka, this force of the dead that can travel through to pass from the tomb to the afterlife. And family members recited prayers in ancient Egypt and praise to the dead in front of this door. Now, we have the Pope doing a different thing in Rome. We know that the Pope is also a political and geopolitical figure, especially this one in particular has been behind all that's been going wrong in this world in the last decade or maybe even 15 years since Barack Hussein Obama came in. And then, of course, we had still Ratzinger in the Vatican. But then in the last 10 years, we had this Pope who has been the most progressive Pope in history, who is somebody who goes after the Latin Mass, promotes the Mayan rite, the Pachamama, the paganism of this world, which is something that, as respectable I can be, because it's connected, of course, to ancient tradition, shouldn't be in any way connected to Christianity, because either is one thing or the other. I mean, there is a timeline in which Christianity came to save us from those pagan deities. So if you embrace that ideology, that religion, it's not something that you can transform in an ideology that you can mix in with some other elements. You should stick to that. Now, 2025 years after the coming of Christ, a new jubilee, in which we have also discussed prior in this show. You remember the anime that the Pope has instituted for this holy year, which is not really Christian. It seems like, I don't know, some kind of Japanese image of Greta Thunberg almost. But in any case, I think that we are seeing strange events happening in the skies. And we have always seen, and this is something that I also discussed in my book. So we have always seen these kind of things happening in moments of great turmoil. The people seem to turn to the skies, and some wonders seem to always, in some way, appear. And there was a time in the medieval times, like I write in The Invisible Masters, that the actual work that was conducted by kings, princes, member of the royal family, it was also to keep under control these entities that will manifest in the skies and create turmoil for the population, the general population. So there has always been moments in history of let's say social unrest in which these things happen into the sky. But we also know that this kind of signs could and should happen at the in the end times, when the false prophets are abandoned, when the signs of these false prophets are abandoned, where we are driven to falsehoods. So these false doors that are intended to serve as portals to allow this life force might be a negative thing when you have a pope who is a Jesuit and who is also very acquainted with the magic of the pharaohs, of the Egyptian magic. Let's not forget that a lot of these elements of magic from ancient Egypt then were embraced by Roman culture back in ancient Rome, and didn't just disappear because the Christianity came along. Christianity, when it came along and became the official religion of Rome, embraced all these pagan cults so they could become the dominating religion of all these cults that were simply transformed. Like I said other times, I mean, there were places of worship that were simply transformed from maybe being a place of worship of the god Mithra into Jesus, or the Isis into a Holy Mary, and so on, with all the saints transforming themselves into the saints of the church. But at the time, maybe those locations were worship of a particular deity of the pagan of paganism. So the pantheon, very varied ones of ancient Rome, was not restricted. It was kept, but simply transformed and reshaped for Christianity. That is something that when Luther came around, and then also Calvinists came around, and of course with Calvin, we have a transformation of Christianity that wants to go back to the roots of really taking away all this worship of intermediaries between us and God. Because in the end, we shouldn't really need intermediaries.
No,
we should be able to deal directly with God. And that is something that, unfortunately, when you have the Illuminati who were in charge of ancient Egypt, of the various temples of Luxor, Heliopolis, Memphis, and of course their headquarters in Alexandria, and then we have these people, prior to that, also we see them in ancient Sumeria also and other parts of the world, then being somehow integrated into Christianity by what became the Vatican. Well, we shouldn't expect anything different from these people, and we should also distance ourselves from organized religions that lavishly play the role of representatives of God on earth, but as you know, they all go around with all their golden attire and everything, while the people are poor and the people need to be fed, and they are in their rich rooms and without delivering anything to the poor. I mean, I saw many times this when I was still in Rome, this attempt that Pope Francis made to be the Pope of the people. And so what did he do? He started to tolerate all around the Vatican homeless people sleeping, pissing, doing all kinds of things around the Vatican, but it was becoming so bad that not only the police had constant problems and even the religious authorities, because around all these churches there were people, you know, homeless coming in, but also people on drugs, mental problems, and all. So it became also a way of discouraging tourism, but it also became obvious that it was simply Pope Francis who wanted to present himself as the man of the people, as somebody who was all embracing of everything. Well, instead there was just a propaganda stunt. So amongst these propaganda stunts, now we have this opening of the 5 portals, and one of the portals will be opened in a very important prison in Rome. So he has also this element that, you know, with these portals. But however, the ceremonial that it comes from ancient Egypt, and it's not really a Christian idea. The Pope is opening something because he has the interest of bringing back tourists to Rome. At the moment, there is a very big problem with tourism. It seems like they're lacking tourists. There has been a lot of Americans who immediately after the pandemic ended started to invade Rome and re-enjoy what they used to in Italy, but now it seems to be a bit of a crisis. And the Vatican has also a lot of problems economically, because they were the ones who, the Pope in primis, as I say, was the one who endorsed this science of just accepting the vaccinated within the Vatican territory and everything, and so limiting also the masses, shutting the churches, as you know, during the pandemic, has created an economic problem, because then the donations didn't come in. I mean, the people who usually go and give their little offer didn't. So, or the people who usually visit the Vatican museums and pay, that is a big business for the Vatican, believe it or not. You have thousands of people every day visiting museums. And during the pandemic, everything was shut. So there's been a loss economically for the Vatican that definitely they want in some way to recover. Now, a few days ago now, a claim was circulating that Pope Francis will open these 5 portals, but the understanding of these 5 portals for people who are not Catholic is a little bit different and can lead to a lot of simplifications. I get a lot of conspiracy theories and so on. But in the end, regardless of the fact checks that can be driven by the establishment that say, oh, no, the sacred portals is something normal, but this and that. The holy doors and the opening of the holy doors mark an official start to the holy year. And this holy year for the Pope is also the year in which I think he will terminate his papacy, because he's been seen very sick. He had a mark on his face not so long ago, a couple of weeks ago. There was a photo with him with a really bad mark here on his face. We really don't know what kind of symptoms he has. We know that he's sick. We know he has a tumor. We know he's very sick. But I mean, to actually have a visible mark, this big is pretty revealing, I would say. So the Pope will, the doors are located, and I can tell you, because as being born and raised there, I can tell you a little bit how it happens and how it's going to happen. The doors, the first one is, of course, in St. Peter's Basilica. Then there is the Archbasilica of St. John in Lateran, which is very dear to me because it's in my neighborhood. And it's the original Vatican, because before St. Peter's was actually built, the real Vatican was actually in this other church of St. John Lateran, which is going to be opened by the Pope symbolically on December 29. And then you have another important basilica in Rome, which is the Basilica of St. Mary Major, or Santa Maria Maggiore, which is going to be open on the 1st of January. And then ultimately you have the Basilica of St. Paul outside the wall, which is a very important basilica, outside of the walls because it's outside of the walls of ancient Rome, though of course now Rome is a much bigger city, so it's still within Rome, and is a very important church, considered a very important church. And then after that, you will have the fifth door located at the Roman prison of Rebibbia, which I told you is an important prison. Actually, the director of this prison is a friend of mine who used to direct a radio show, did one of my first radio shows back in the day. So he's head of this prison at the moment. He directs this prison. And so this is what he's doing. According to the church dicastery.
Sorry, Leo.
Yes.
Leo, I'm just, I've got some comments. I can hear you fine.
Yes.
I'm just checking some comments that people are saying your sound is not good. I hear you fine though, but there's a few people saying in the chat
what kind of problem do they have with my sound?
It seems to be breaking up. Someone said they hear every few words. But I'm hearing Leo fine, guys. So I'm asking you just to check. And
well, maybe I can, if you want, I can go in and out of the thing. Maybe it will help. We can try, like somebody suggested, if you want.
I think just carry on and just see how it goes.
Okay,
then,
no worries.
Yeah.
Okay. It seems like people had to actually do in and out, and then they actually got the sound good. So it seems probably depends also from them. The connection here seems fine. I mean, I leave it to Chantelle because Chantelle is the one who is in charge of the virtual studio. So I guess you have a complete. You can listen to me fine, and so if you listen.
Yes, I hear you fine. I hear you fine, but it seems to have sorted out now. So yeah, sorry.
So according to the church, like we were saying, it will be the first time, really, though, that in addition to the holy doors, which I just mentioned, open in the 4 classical papal basilicas, you will have also one open in a penal institution, which it's really unusual because a prison is not the best place to open a portal of any kind. The energies that I mean, in a prison, you don't have any holy energies of any kind. You have rather the opposite. So I'm afraid that this intention Pope Francis to make the prisoners of Rebibbia participate to this whole thing is a propaganda stunt, but it could also backfire because you don't open portals in a prison where people have a lot of time at disposal and tend to think, pray, and maybe bad thoughts can come in. So this is my thought.
I agree, because when we're speaking to people, I mean, it's no secret the Vatican is as dodgy as hell. There's not even a question around that. Whether you're a conspiracy theorist or not and believe that they are the head of the snake, or you just believe they're a bunch of old men who like little boys, it's irrelevant. Fact is that any type of those acts are really considered evil. And when you're speaking to people that have been in the arcane and they do practice dark witchcraft, magic, etc., prisons and psych wards are the greatest energy batteries that these people use. They use prisoners and they use guys in the psych wards. They literally steal their energy. So, and they use that to power their own magic, basically. So it doesn't surprise me that the Pope is actually opening a portal into the prisons, or a doorway into the prisons, under the guise that he feels bad for the prisoners. And I agree, prisoners do need to be rehabilitated for sure. I think a lot of them don't even need or deserve to be there, but that's a story for a different day. Nevertheless, the energy that is contained in these prisons is demonic, to say the least. When you see what these guys do to each other, very often they run by the gangs. Here in South Africa, most of the prisons are run by the gangs. They tell the wardens what to do, type thing, or some of them anyway. So it's a dark place to be in. And when we know that the Vatican is dark, I don't care what anyone says, Leo, the Vatican is dark. Any of those guys, whether you believe the conspiracy theorists or not, but anyone who plays with little boys, sorry, there's a big problem there, and then sits there and protects all of them. And the whole Catholic thing about needing, as you say, the priest so that you can gain salvation. Who gives these guys the right to be your gateway between you and God? That is just unbelievably stupid if anyone thinks that's okay.
I would say this, that if we're going to go by a traditional point of view, they rely on the fact that they have an apostolic lineage that goes back to Jesus through St. Peter. However, we also know that the church has changed very much since then, and especially after the Second Vatican Council, they have lost that feeling of being at least genuine for their own believers, because nowadays they are a progressive bunch of people who are pushing woke policies more than Jesus. And the fact that even in every year they have the nativity in St. Peter's Square with the little baby Jesus and various images. And sometimes this nativity has been criticized even by me, because they had all kinds of weird imagery lately connected to, it seems like, some cosmonauts or images that brought us back to ancient Egypt and some symbols from ancient Egypt. But lately it's becoming very political. There was a keffiyeh from the Palestinians around the baby Jesus. Now, with all the respect, to politicize baby Jesus as a Palestinian, I have some problems with that, because Jesus was, first of all, a Jew. So if you want to politicize the whole thing, then it becomes a problem. Now, you can believe or not in the fact that Israel has the right to exist, but you can't politicize Jesus. Jesus was and remains a Jew. And that's why there is a lot of problems I have personally with alternative media pundits that seem to spew more and more anti-Semitic propaganda these days. I mean, it's like you go on their shows and they say, "Oh, the Jews are behind all the ills of the world," and I tell them, "Listen, it's like it's not true, because Jews are a race, and within a race you have bad people and good people, and this happens with every race in the world." It would be like saying that all Africans are bad people, or all people of a certain ethnicity are bad. I tend to be critical of ideologies, of specific religions, sectarians at times, but I can't be critical of the ethnicity of people. And so this reference that the Pope has made by placing the keffiyeh on baby Jesus, around baby Jesus this year, I think is despicable, and it should have no place within a holy celebration which has nothing political about it. But also you have the fact that within Middle Eastern countries, Christians are persecuted and are still persecuted. And we saw it even recently with what has happened in Syria. I mean, a lot of people applauded, of course, the arrival of these mercenaries from former ISIS and Al-Qaeda who took over the country and freed from Assad. And, you know, Assad was a crook, of course, was probably involved in a lot of bad things, but they're all crooks in the Middle East. It's like taking away Saddam Hussein and you get 1,000 Saddam Hussein. And Iraq has never been the same again. It's been sorry if I say the word, it's been a shithole ever since. I mean, it wasn't that great of a country before Saddam Hussein, but now Iraq is still in turmoil and is not a balanced country. And so if you take away Bashar al-Assad, you have the same thing happening. So people who hope into a transformation of Syria, into a democracy that is going to be all friendly because the guy used to be with Al-Qaeda now suddenly is wearing a suit, or it's ridiculous. And the fact that now America sent 2,000 soldiers in Syria, for what reason? Why should we be there in the first place? We have no reason to be there, like Trump said.
Exactly.
So it's like Joe Biden is doing everything possible with his administration to sabotage the arrival of Donald J. Trump. So the arrival of these drones that are seen with suspicion are also, for some people, connected to an act of sabotage prior to Trump becoming president. I mean, he is president-elect, but the laws here is very clear. We still are with Joe Biden in charge. And like we just saw from a very revealing interview that was published also online in the last 24 hours, Joe Biden finally, even the media is admitting he's not well. He's in a cognitive decline. He's confused. So it's very easy to use a guy like that. It's a little bit like, you know, when you are a family of people without ethics or morals who maybe have an old grandpa, and before he dies, they make him sign a bunch of papers so they can all take their own inheritance. And it's just evil. And
yeah, exactly.
And unfortunately, we are witnessing to something that might lead to a lot of additional work from Trump. I mean, they are all discussing here in America this package, that the fact that the government might shut down and all that. Why is Trump and Elon Musk forcing the government to shut down and not approving this? Because within this package of Bush BS, that there is also the fact that Joe Biden is selling off pieces of the wall for $5 a whole thing. I mean, for nothing. He's selling material that Trump will have to use anyway to construct this wall, but he is just selling it out on the internet and making sure that Trump, when he arrives, he doesn't have the material to continue the construction of his wall.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous when you think also of what the Democrats promised during both the Biden campaign and the Kamala Harris campaign for president, when they said, we will also build the wall. Well, and now you're selling it off for pennies, and you are not really helping the situation here. So I think that sabotaging Trump before he starts his mandate is not politically a good thing for the Democrats. It makes them look like bad losers, but also like criminals. And to the majority of the American population that can see that these people have a criminal intent to sabotage the American people when they don't get things their own way. So I'm quite shocked that they haven't realized yet all the failures of their campaign with Kamala Harris, and that they are even ventilating the possibility of candidating for the next presidential race, Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton. I mean, two losers who lost Donald J. Trump. I mean, well, at that point, we're fine. We can stay in charge for the next 100 years if that is the mentality. Then another problem, though, that arises for me that I'm living in California is that Gavin Newsom, who wants to play probably the presidential card for the next presidential election, is trying to Trump-proof the state of California, and now they want to start talks to bring California to secession, to leave the United States. This is insane. And I think that if they do something like that, then we are really we're going to probably start seeing a true insurrection from people who are patriots, who have had enough of Sacramento's laws and Gavin Newsom dictating this BS, because nobody wanted Gavin Newsom in the first place. We even had a recall, if you remember, at one point during the pandemic. It worked out because the system here is rigged. But people like Newsom, like Nancy Pelosi fortunately broke herself by falling off the stairs in this Grand Ducal Palace in Luxembourg, had to change her hip, and I hope she stays in Europe, she never comes back. But in any case, if these people want to bring California out of the union because they are not happy with Donald J. Trump, well, we will fight that. And I tell you, there is a lot of sheriffs like Chad Bianco and other people here in Riverside County, but also in various counties where they are predominantly Republican, because the only people who are voting for these Democrats are in the big cities. And they are also people who have a very sour and bitter take on life. You can still see them after the 5th of November with their faces, you know, when I go around and I see them, they're really evil. They're real Democrats, like I said.
No, that totally they are.
The brainwashing discussed in this book, which touch also Thomas Crooks, by the way, because Thomas Crooks, his parents are this way. And now I don't know if you read one of my latest articles on leozagami.com about the discoveries that have been made lately about Thomas Crooks' parents. But now the latest one that has been brought out is the fact that the father of Thomas Crooks, at 10:56 in the evening, after the whole of America knew that his son had shot the president and was shot, calls and said, "Where is my son?" Said, to plant, of course, a possibility for defense, because he gave the gun he put under, changed the actual property of the gun a year prior to that, donating the gun to his son and changing the intestation. So, I mean, the son was in charge of that gun. He didn't need to give him that gun. So that also, so here we have, and like I said, and I explain in my book, that whole thing that happened on the 13th of July will need a real investigation, while instead the investigation that has been done today and the congressional report is completely is full of faults, and it's covering up the very heavy responsibilities that these people have. So I hope that we can see some honesty sooner or later regarding what happened on the 13th of July.
Do you really think we're going to, though? Because I'm sure that's gonna. I mean, I think at the end of the day, the truth really does end up coming out, always, you know. But I think, yeah, you know, with these guys,
well, now we have. I mean, like I explained in my website, in my latest article, there is clear connections with Big Pharma. I mean, the son, Thomas Crooks, who died, used to work in a clinic, who was very much involved with the use of drugs used by Big Pharma for antidepressive for children even.
Yeah.
And there is a connection with Able Child, which is this organization that protects It's recognized as a non-profit organization that is dedicated to protect the full informed and the right to refuse psychiatric services, in particular in children, has discovered the role of the Bethel Park skilled nursing home where this guy worked, and has discovered that it's completely connected to the big pharma. And this guy, Thomas Crooks, could have used and could have taken from the place where he worked for self-medication certain substances. But we will never know the truth because, like I told you, and like I explained in my book, he's being cremated very conveniently 10 days after he was shot. So we will never be able to analyze and see what he was on.
Wow. But I think we can suspect, and probably would usually be right anyway. It's interesting. You know what I wanted to ask you? Just going back to Pope Francis opening up these portals and gates in the Vatican. They're calling it their right of recognition. So, because obviously what they're doing is they do this every 25 years. And I saw something where they actually like...
Well, I mean, what they're doing usually it's becoming every 10 years because they already did a jubileum 10 years ago at this point that was called upon Francis. So he's kind of instituting this jubilee. Usually, like you said, it was every 25 years. But because of the necessity for him to cash in, he's starting to do them every 10 years, you know, adding it to it.
What is this thing? Because what I'm seeing is that I think the 2016 was the last time they did that. So
yeah.
About,
so I mean, we have basically a jubilee that it was 9 years ago. It wasn't a million years ago. It was an extraordinary jubilee. It took place from December 8, 2015, and then it went on to November 20, 2016. So it is weird because to have a jubilee like that without really a reasoning. I mean, because
exactly. But they said there was one in 2016 the last time, and then what they did was, from what I saw, they took like a metal box, and they buried it in the wall. And they put a whole lot of stuff in this box, all sorts of amulets and I guess trinkets.
What they do, like I said, they put bricks with specific prayers and things, and then they put this box with certain things. It's a little bit like, you know, how you call it in English, when the children leave maybe for a time capsule. A time capsule, yes. A time capsule. Just,
is that what it is? Seriously? So it's like a time capsule type thing that they're doing there. That's insane.
I think when they do it, regardless, I mean, the Catholic period of prayer that you have during a jubilee and all that, and the fact that it's a holy year, and the last one was the Holy Year of Mercy. Now they have created this other Holy Year of whatever. And I mean, it's about, like I said, it has two main reasons here. The fact that we have a pope that is definitely getting older and that is probably going to leave soon his job, either by dying or either by retiring, like Pope Ratzinger. However, the Pope oversaw the last Jubilee, which started in 2015, December 2015, but ended in 2016. And it was supposed to be a different kind of Jubilee, tell you the truth, because I went to the Vatican in 2014, 14, December 2013, because we were with the group of Italians doing this pitchforks movement, a social unrest situation, and I was one of the people involved. And we sort of gave the idea to the Pope by saying he should start a jubilee of mercy, but not of mercy, of simple mercy, but actually of forgiving not only the sins, but in the old days, this kind of jubilee used to forgive also your debts. And because people were are more and more in debt, it would have been great if the Pope could do an old school jubilee by forgiving the debts and inviting people to forgive all their debts. It didn't happen, of course. He just he just took the idea of doing a jubilee, I guess, and he just did a jubilee to make more
Yeah,
money.
it's so crazy because, again, this to me is just it is such a great indicator as to the cover, the deception, the levels of deception these people go to cover up their evil acts. And I'm just also watching the chat here again, and it's like, these portals that they're opening, I have no doubt, Leo, that they're opening for very nefarious reasons. And then, of course, we're hearing, is this whole fake alien invasion just another psyop? But in my opinion, more and more the veils are getting thinner. So these things are coming in through the veils. And I do believe that some of them is most definitely the military and NASA just being boys with toys and just creating havoc and chaos. But I also believe that there is, on the other hand, there are these demonic entities, if that's the word for them. There's different words. The archons is what I understand.
The fact that
fallen
the
angels,
portal,
basically.
yeah, I mean, the fact that the first portal of these portals that we said, 5 portals that are opening, is opening actually on the 24th of December, which is very symbolic. I mean, it's the eve of Christmas, and so very important moment for Christians. So, I mean, this ritual that they're going to conduct, starting from the Christmas Eve, it's very weird also to see that the Pope is capable of still participating to this thing when he has had so many health issues in participating to a lot of events. And
it's probably why he's having health issues. Seriously, it's because he's being so dodgy.
Well, definitely he's not having any help from God, because I mean he's not having any higher power to help him finally solve all his health issues.
He's not having any divine intervention for his health there. He's certainly paying
here is we have a Jesuit Pope, and we always said that it was unusual. It was the first time in history. The Jesuits are very important. They are the order that was instituted almost 500 years ago, basically, almost. And it was instituted because the Vatican needed people like the Jesuits, who had promised not only to be a religious order, but a military, intelligence, and also very skilled in magical arts. Like I always say, and this is something that very few people state because maybe they don't know history, maybe they don't want to talk about it. The historians try to cover it up. But the founder of the Jesuits was arrested by the Inquisition 5 times before he eventually became the founder of the Jesuits, and before the Pope will eventually in 1540, 1541, between these 2 years, accept him and then make him join with his order what is the Counter-Reformation. The Pope needed at the time somebody like Ignacio Loyola, who was a magician, a guy who was basically investigated because he was a member of the Alumbrados, the Illuminati in Spain, Gnostics, who were practicing heretical rituals, sexual magic, and all kinds of things. And suddenly this guy becomes the defender of the faith. He doesn't become actually the defender of the faith. People know that the Jesuits have various levels, and the vow that eventually becomes the most important level of the Jesuit, the upper level of the Jesuit, is a vow which is done to the Pope. Is only the Pope. So they are not really Christians. They are simply mercenaries that will do anything for the Pope. They will kill. The fourth vow Jesuits is not all the Jesuits, by the way. That's why a lot of people say, oh, but the Jesuits are so nice. I have a Jesuit priest who was my teacher, or this other. First of all, the Jesuits are very knowledgeable. And they are very pleasant at times. I mean, I had very nice chats with them and stuff. I mean, wow. I mean, it was very pleasant. They are the scientists of the church. You can really go very deep with them. They know everything from science to magic, from everything that the paranormal has to offer. They know it. And plus that, as you know, they are the ones in charge of the alien arrival, possible, potential, extraterrestrial. They are the ones who have written books, who are in charge of the astronomical side of the Vatican. They have observatories. They have this observatory here in America connected also to that Lucifer telescope. So the Jesuits are the ones who know what is happening before everybody else. And for that reason, the obedience that they had to the Pope always put them aside from being chosen for actually becoming Pope themselves. That's why they never wanted to become Pope, because they never will let them become Pope. Then at one point, the Jesuits were kicked out of the Vatican because they were involved in far too many scandals with various monarchies, taking powers down, up, even acting as killers. And so it was pretty obvious that they were not very religious. They were pretty much doing their own thing. And they were kicked out of the Vatican between the 1770s and the 1850s. When they went back into the Vatican, and they started to then more aggressively turn their presence into even more to do with all the military intelligence affairs of the Vatican, they became in charge of the counterintelligence of the Vatican. During the whole time in which the existence of the Soviet Union threatened the Vatican, because the Soviet Union will infiltrate their seminaries with a lot of young priests who were actually communists sent by Soviet Union to learn more about the Vatican. No? The Vatican had a counterintelligence, which was the guy in charge was called, I think, Robert Graham. He was very, very capable counterintelligence officer, but he was a Jesuit. And it's known that the Jesuits have the biggest archives that are bigger than the ones in Langley, Virginia, of the CIA. So you're talking about people, when they do, for example, this worldwide, this international conferences where all the various members of the intelligence agencies, you have MI6, you have CIA, you have this and that. The Jesuits arrive there and they actually lecture these people. And the recruitment of the spies these days in America happens mostly in Jesuit universities, like I explained in volume 1 of my Confessions. And then you have either the Jesuits these days or either the Mormons. This seems to be the best choices that the CIA has to offer. Before they went into, of course, the last few years, also into a progressive woke campaign to recruit a lot of transgender people, a lot of people with some sexuality disorders, because it seems to be fashionable. And that led, in turn, to more problems rather than solutions. Because when a Russian or when a Chinese knows that you have a transgender in charge of the archives, or a guy who is homosexual, well, you simply send them an homosexual. You simply send them somebody who will, and then they will say, and then they will give all the information out like that. And then that's where we are now today, unfortunately, where this diversity, equity, and inclusion, which I've mentioned in volume 11. I don't know if you have the possibility yet to read volume 11, but I have elaborated on the fact that the diversity, equity, and inclusion has become very prominent even within the psychological operations, because at one point during Obama's administration, they decided that, well, calling it psychological operation was a little bit too much, too revealing. So they had to change into something else. And then they rechanged it into psychological operation. Then they rechanged it into something else. Now it's back to be psychological operation. At least we know what it is. But it is, I think, really stupid for American armed forces, for the intelligence community, who have given any importance to sexuality, which should not have anything to do with the choice of a professional simply doing its job. It can be whatever, who cares? But not, not because, oh, well, I'm a lesbian, I'm going to have my job. As my mother, I saw cartoons for the CIA. My mother was a lesbian, my mother and my two mothers, and now I've been recruited in the CIA. Who cares? Who gives a damn who is your mother?
Exactly.
So it's just
it's this whole it's this whole this inclusive, because I think that's when you're looking at that, it's all part of the New World Order agenda. Everything is inclusive. Prisoners are inclusive. Now we're seeing, because now the Pope is opening up a portal or a door, to connect with the prisoners. God knows what all else is going to go on there. So inclusive religion, inclusive fluid sexuality, everything is inclusive, and it sounds so seductive, because
I would
really
say that this is part of the psychological operation that is taking place, of the cognitive warfare, as I said, that is taking place, because psychological operations are made to persuade people about something, and they want to persuade something because, like you said, persuade us to accept this as normal and as part of life. But then it's not normal, and it's not relevant. Especially, it's not a question of normal. I don't care what is normal. You can go with a camel. I don't care. You can get whatever. It's not my problem what is your sexuality, but the problem of the United States Army or the relevant community, intelligence community, is to be effective. And if you present yourself as an admiral who is a man transformed in a woman with a skirt, and you are demanding people to obey you, well, it's a little bit difficult. And then also, I saw another thing happening. This is quite incredible. The military is based on discipline, on the fact you have you have colonels, you have majors, before that you have majors, whatever, generals, you have degrees of importance, you have officers, you have marshals, okay. Now, I was a military, but I did it in Italy, so I don't really know the whole system here in America, but I know that you have to respect your superiors. Now, with this diversity, equity, and inclusion, and all these woke people in the military, suddenly, when a general gives an order, a superior gives the order, they can be put into question. Oh, his order was not respecting of my race, of my sexuality, of my whatever. It's called the military. For God's sake, you have to respect orders. Otherwise, you just walk out and search for yourself another job. Go and work as a drag queen in a club. I don't care. But don't come into the military, because the fact that in recent years, under Biden in particular, a lot of officers have found themselves in trouble, because suddenly the people they were ordering around, they were like, oh, no, I'm not going to take this order. It's not respecting of my identity, of my space, of my this and my that. Listen, I don't want to be vulgar, but this kind of things makes me mad.
Yeah. No, I think we're seeing off the same song sheet there, because I do believe, yes, there has to be free choice. We have to be able to.
The military is a choice. If you join the military, apart from people like me who, I was drafted back in the days because we had the draft back in Italy, and so we didn't have a choice. But we couldn't question the authority of our superiors because of their sexuality, race, or stuff. It's completely ridiculous, and it will not bring any victory to your army. When you have to face Russia and China and those kind of people, you need to have the most fierce people on the field ever. So I really hope that Pete Hegseth, the new defense secretary with Donald J. Trump, will manage to reform and bring back some normality into the armed forces, because it's very sad to see also that because of their forced vaccination program under Joe Biden in particular, the military have made it impossible for a lot of people to continue. And they left. They said, no, I'm not going to take that vaccine. I'm not going to, you know. So what happens here? It happens that you lost a good military. It happens that then you possibly injected a substance that would be maybe damaging for some people. And at the same time, the new recruits, finding new recruits is becoming difficult, because like we are seeing with hopefully with the reform of the RFK Jr., I mean, America has a real problem. We have the same food, maybe the same cereal you have in South Africa here with 25 more ingredients, and it's all garbage. So they have created a very weak millennial. The millennial is weak. The millennial have all kind. Oh, I have an allergy here. I have an allergy there. Of course, you're eating garbage. You're eating shit, literally. And the moment you eat this food and you are not, and then you want to get, I want to become an army recruit. Yeah, good luck, because then you go there and they see, well, you are not suitable. We can take in somebody who has all these allergies, who will arrive in the battlefield and suddenly feel sick. Yeah. And that's becoming an increased problem. That's why I think that maybe if RFK Jr. Will have been considered 10, 15, 20 years ago, he will probably not be in the end able to carry on in his role. But today, because also what is happening with all this poison, which has really weakened the state of the new generations in America, and you can see it. I mean, people eat unhealthy food, genetically modified garbage, left, right, and center, and you can't live on a diet of fried chicken. I mean, you can love fried chicken, it's a thing you can occasionally eat. But if you live on a diet of fried chicken or garbage like that, well, you're going to have some health issues. And those health issues eventually will weigh into the national economy, because you are going to put pressure on the medical establishment. And at times, of course, you are not going to be able to pay. In any case, it will put pressure on the medical establishment. So I think that making not only America, but the world healthy again is a priority by eating good food. And I'm not here in, I mean, I know I respect all the vegans, I respect all the vegetarians, I respect people who make some drastic choices. But in general, I embrace moderation in everything. So moderation in eating meat, moderation in eating everything, because I think that we need to live in an there has to be equilibrium. But eating quality food, because we are what we eat. And so this is really what we need to plant also in the future generations, when they go to school and they eat food which has no nutritional value. Eating is very important, because you are what you eat, and eventually it's gonna create problems. So
absolutely, your food is your medicine, and I agree. With the world, and I know especially America has been, for years, there's been a huge attack on America in terms of that. And that's why I know in America there's a high percentage of obesity as well,
It's very sad.
Really, someone who's obese, in my opinion, is really undernourished. Might look like they have too much, but they're getting no nutrition. And everything is just turning into the wrong stuff. But, that's a story for another day. But it's so true what you say. If we take care of ourselves, we take care of our health, there's not that strain on the economy to take care of the health system. And of course, but that all links into the whole medical mafiosa and what they're pushing, and the whole mental health
But think
terminal
about it,
health.
Chantelle. If instead of pushing in the last few years, they have been pushing aggressively, eating insects, eating lab-grown meat, and all this bullshit that they think will save the planet. Instead of promoting that garbage, they will promote real food. And well, they don't want the well-being of people. That's the problem
They
here.
don't want healthy people. They don't want healthy people. They want control. Because
They
Bill
want the
Gates has
control.
bought, yeah, Bill Gates has bought up a lot of the farmland in America. Over here in South Africa, Johann Rupert, who's a Rothschild, because as we know by now on this channel, South Africa is owned by the Rothschilds. And Johann Rupert, who's the actual spokesperson for South Africa, is a Rothschild. And he has bought up prime sacred land and prime farming land. So all these guys have bought up the farming land because they know that's what they're gonna plan to keep for the future. The rest of us are in their minds destined to be eating insects and living off dust and bugs,
Well, another thing, we discussed the drones, no? And there is all these drones flying around, but where are they flying from? Well, when you have an increased number of land that is either of Bill Gates, but also purchased by the Chinese. Chinese have purchased large chunks of land in America, close to even military bases, that could easily be the basis for these drones. And that is the problem, maybe, that, you know, they don't want to reveal it to the general population. But if that is the case, it means that we have been weak, because if I try to buy large portions of land in China, they will tell me, go and screw yourself. We don't allow it. If the Chinese come here, they go to Washington, where everything is corrupt. They corrupt a few politicians and they buy big chunks of land. And now we have a problem here. We have the Chinese present all over the United States, and the possibility that this invasion also of immigrants, in which we found thousands of Chinese passing, especially here in San Diego, for the last few years, is possible. The buildup of a military, of an army of Chinese here in the United States, ready to attack. So the enemy within, because we let them in. And so now, whatever happens regarding these drones in particular, I'm not talking about the UAPs, because that's a little bit different. And then you have also this strange phenomena of the orbs that seems to be very much taking place all over the US, or orbs appearing and drones chasing them, which is rather weird. But
I honestly think that a lot of this, they're giving us a flippin' a movie show here. Seriously, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
It's very choreographed, this whole thing, this scenario. But going back to the Chinese, in any case, these drones, either they're Americans, Russia, whatever, they're always Chinese, because their components will always be built in China. So, I mean, if you want to know from where they're from, in any case, they're from China, because that's where everything is made these days.
Made in China.
Regardless of who owns them. I think that even the aliens probably make their stuff in China by now. So, I mean,
I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do. But you know what? I mean, you're looking at, and again, talking about drones, but a different type of drone now. And you're looking at these Ukrainian drones. I mean, they called, I was actually reading up about them not too long ago, the vampire drones. I mean, these guys I was reading, they're dropping robot dogs on the Russian soldiers or whatever in Russian territory from these drones. So, I mean, the whole world, it just seems that this, in my opinion, seems to be the war where these things are starting to be tested. It's like, this is how they're normalizing. They're starting to know. And in my opinion, I sat and I thought, I wonder if this is actually why they even began this war in Ukraine and Russia anyway, just to try out this new drone technology. It's disgusting what they're doing to each other. I mean,
well, the cyber Satan is made about the rise. It's going to happen to. I always talk about the cyber Satan, and as you know, I wrote 3 books dedicated to this subject: Volume 6.66, Volume 7, and Volume 9. But these drones, whatever they are, they might be connected to the AI. They have some kind of AI working within them or outside, controlling them. So
they're being controlled.
AI, cyber Satan in the future, the wars will be conducted by drones. You said in Ukraine and in Russia, we had even attacks on Russian soils. Even in Moscow, the drones from Ukraine arrived there. And in fact, it was at one point Elon Musk who argued with Ukraine because he didn't want to give access to Starlink in Russian territory for those drones who were attacking using Starlink. Now it's very interesting to see the position of Elon Musk in regards to all this, because Elon Musk was the one who for the last few months has announced openly that there will be a war of drones that will be conducted. So he said it, he anticipated, he said that, you know, we are about to have a war of drones. But once this war starts with these drones, it's gonna be different from how it is before, because the moment in which these wars, drones start, and then the AI and the robots, you said the robot dogs, it's gonna be robots substituting soldiers, AI substituting the control of human subjects, and this in the end will end up in some kind of Terminator scenario.
It looks like we're heading for like this steampunk type world, right?
Cyberpunk. Yeah.
It's like where we're going to be wearing these goggles, and that's what it feels like to me. That, you know, that's kind of like where we headed with all of this, which is crazy. And exactly half human, so we're like chimeras, right? Half human, half computer, or
well,
whatever it is.
That is an interesting point. Now, what position will Elon Musk, who is very much somebody who has been always open and encouraging transhumanism, have in the future? Because transhumanism is definitely something that could immediately lead to what we as Christians consider the mark of the beast. And it's definitely a dangerous moment in which I ended the volume 11 talking about once again about transhumanism, because the moment in which they insert something inside your brain, a computer brain interface, then mind control as we know it, it's a joke compared to what they can do directly with a joystick controlling
compared to what they've been doing, right? Compared to what if we think it's bad what they've been doing.
And also the thoughts, the fact that now, thanks to those, as soon as you insert something external, already when you put a watch like an Apple Watch, you have control over your system. But once you have it inside your body, even your thoughts can be detected. What kind of freedom will you have? What kind of freedom are we presenting to future generations? So I think that Elon Musk is an instrumental guy to convince and that he needs to transform also, if he wants his work within that field, in a positive force by giving, of course, the necessary human control over the machine rather than the machine controlling the human. Because it seems like up until now, you know,
I just think, I mean, the minute you give anyone control over someone else or something else, the abuse of power, we haven't learned as a collective species yet how not to abuse our power. There's too many people who are power hungry, whether they're human or not. So, you know, I honestly, I think, and I have always maintained this, your body is designed to heal itself. You are a vessel created in the image of God. And when we tap into the true essence of God that lives within each and every cell of our body, that's all we need. I have healed myself from life-threatening diseases. I have, honestly, and I've done that by knowing that my body is designed to heal myself. And I know I work with my creator who wants me healed, who wants me in a good space. I have to do the work to get myself there, but I'm guided by God's force. And how do I do that? Through prayer, through silence, through listening to my intuition. People say intuition is bullshit. If you are not aligned, your intuition is bullshit. But if you're aligned with God, it's through your intuition, God will speak to you. And it's up to you to listen and to act. I healed myself from breast cancer. At the same time, I was bitten by a black widow spider. By rights, I should be dead. So, but I knew that my body had the ability to heal itself. And with the help of God and with the guidance of God, I did it. And I've shown many people over time how to heal themselves too. And it's amazing. It's amazing what happens. We don't need, Leo, excuse my Italian, we don't need any fucking brain chips in anything. That is a satanic agenda, and it is designed to control us human beings. And when
unfortunately, the Great Reset by 2030 is almost imposing this choice for the human race. So it's going to be like, in one way or another, they're going to find the excuse to insert something external within us. Or if they can't, they will try to detect our thoughts through complex algorithms that can somehow just see your face, see your expression, and know everything that you're thinking already. I mean, there is already the possibility that that's happening. So, I mean, we know it because when we go simply on a social network like Facebook, we start having this publicity that seems to be in line with our thoughts or things. You know, they're pushing maybe a product, and we say, "How is possible? Oh, I found it here next on you know." And so there is definitely this attempt to hack our brains. And this is why I think that my latest book has been successful. I just published it, by the way, also in the Italian language in the last few weeks. It's both in Italian and English, so to reach both audiences. But the hacking of the brain, the cognitive warfare, the fact that psychological operations nowadays can be conducted with also the aid of the AI, your data centers, your own social networks that can be scrutinized in a millisecond by the AI, knowing already what kind of person you are, who is Chantelle, viewing every single email you ever wrote in your life, and immediately saying, okay, I will approach Chantelle in this way. When I see here in America, we have in the last month, this publicity about Gemini, the AI of Google. And they are kind of convincing us, oh, why don't you chat with Gemini? And Gemini, even if you have an Android phone, you receive a message on it, why don't you chat with me? I'm Gemini. Why don't you go and screw yourself, Gemini? A month ago, Gemini wanted to kill the human race. Gemini was the one that a month ago, not a million years ago, was threatening people and wanted to eliminate the human race. And within 24 hours, Google had to go in an emergency mode. And now they're bombarding us with publicity saying, Gemini wants to be your friend. No, Gemini wanted to eliminate, and there is articles all over the internet.
But who is controlling Gemini though? Because Gemini would not have Gemini has someone controlling.
Absolutely. All the AI has programmers. And so that's why I think that it's interesting to see how Elon Musk is developing his own AI, which is definitely gives you different answers from the ones ChatGPT. Because when you answer, who is Leo Zagami, to ChatGPT, he doesn't have anything good to say. When you answer instead the Krog, whatever is called Elon Musk AI, he gives a nice answer and respectful of my person. So there is already, and why? Because like you said, there is program, it's been programmed in a certain way. ChatGPT is a libtarded AI. It's been programmed by libtards, by leftists, by demons. That's why
exactly.
I'll have a little bit of hope that Elon Musk doesn't screw us up, because when I interacted in the same way with his own AI, it gave me a completely different answer, and I was very happy with it. So we have hope that AI can be developed in ways that are not harmful. But
it highlights to me again, whether it's Elon Musk's AI, whether it's Gemini, whether it's Chat GPT, these things are controlled by forces. And these forces are ultimately human or demonic, whatever, but they have their agenda. And as long as we as human beings don't wake up to that, we're going to get swept in. And that's what I'm saying, you know. To me, I see it so clearly. It's so simple what I'm seeing. It's not easy to change it because it means a human being has to change their mindset. And the human beings, we have been so programmed and so conditioned over centuries of bullshit that to undo that now is quite a huge task. But somehow we're getting there. And, you know, we understand that we are governed by monsters. We're controlled by monsters. It's as simple as that. And they keep us in their matrix. And as long as we choosing...
Well, I don't think it's a question of monsters. It's a question that the Illuminati, the elite, wants to be their own gods. And this is a belief
that makes them monsters because they become greedy.
Monster, absolutely. I mean, I explained this also, especially in volume 9. I mean, the fact that the Illuminati in the higher degrees teach how to become your own god. And the motto of the high degrees of the OTO was actually based on this thing that, you know, you are basically a god. So Deus est homo, God is man. You are God, basically. Well, this is the problem here, that these people then think they're gods. And so if you are a god, at that point, you lose contact with the reality and you start thinking you are a god, then of course you will do evil things. I wish we had somebody who instead will arrive to that level of power and just like Jesus will give himself to the people rather than taking from the people. Because Jesus had all the knowledge of the world.
But I definitely know that Jesus would not want to be putting chips into everyone's brain.
Absolutely, but that's because, like I wrote in my books, I said it clearly in volume 7. I said in volume 6. Transhumanism is the mark of the beast. It leads inevitably to the mark of the beast, and inevitably leads to coercion and control of the person. Now, the excuse that they are giving is the guy is paralyzed, the guy can't walk, this and that, and so maybe if we put him this computer brain interface, he can walk again. This becomes the Trojan horse. The medical establishment, it's actually working as a Trojan horse when it comes down to the computer brain interface, the BCIs. And I explain in this book the importance that the BCIs have in the next level of mind control that they are working upon. So I hope that we can eventually find some equilibrium here. That's why I think that going back to what happened in November, no, when they brought the exorcist in Mar-a-Lago, when Elon Musk and all the various members of the Trump administration were there, and this exorcist started to exorcise everybody and give the blessings. I have hope that maybe some kind of exorcist, that Elon Musk can be exorcised, but can be also blessed. I have hope for every human in the world. But the problem is, if these humans, any human, then integrates the AI within, then it's not a human we are talking anymore with, and that becomes dangerous. So
Exactly.
Thank you so much for having me on today. Every month we have this incredible meeting of minds in this chat. Also, I see here in the chat board a lot of people have enjoyed it. So I'm glad about that. I see you, of course, in a month's time. I wish you all a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Hoping 2025 can be better than 2024. As I'm sure it will, in a way, because 2024 was really a bad year for many reasons.
It was a watershed year, Leo. It was a watershed year. A lot of truth surfaced this year, that's for sure. Everything. And you know what? for those, it's just a time where we are changing. It's a time where we are needing to take responsibility, be accountable. I just think with all the stuff going on, these guys are opening portals. The question is, are they even closing them? What's going in? What's going out? We understand that the universe is non-physical before it's physical. So the non-physical is 10 times more powerful than the physical when we see what's happening on a non-physical level. So it's just interesting times, and that's why we just got to keep ourselves aligned. We've got to pray, meditate, whatever it is you do. Just stay aligned and stay.
And like I said in my books, at one point, we have to be capable of going off the grid when they will force us into choose between merging with the machine and continuing in their smart cities or whatnot, or either embracing a more traditional form of life and continuing as human beings, not as human beings who are augmented, enhanced by the machine. Oh, we are human beings that now are capable of going to Mars. I don't care. Go to Mars. Actually, if you want to bring to Mars all the assholes of the planet, Elon, please do. And that would be a great service to mankind. Because, we can empty this planet of all the assholes, make them go to Mars. They can transform themselves in some kind of transhuman that can breathe in whatever, that can travel in space, that can do all kinds of things. I'm happy for them. Leave the planet and go and screw yourself. And Merry Christmas to you too. Thank you so much for having me on, and God bless you all, guys. At the end of this year, it's very important that we also remember those people who don't have much this Christmas, who will be alone, and maybe through our wishes will find a word of comfort.
Absolutely. Thank you, Leo. And we here, all of us, wish you a beautiful Christmas, and your wife as well. And in fact, Lisa D, with the first message, one of the mods said that she bought your wife's cookbook and she thinks it's absolutely outstanding. So if you check in the details as well, the description area, Leo's details will be in there. I will see you guys on Sunday again at 9 a.m. EST with Jesse. And then I won't see you for about a week, round about there. And I just want to say thank you so very much, Angie, for the super sticker. Really appreciate that.
Thank you for the compliment for the cookbook. Again, it would be a great and perfect Christmas present because you can really learn about Italian cooking, guys. And it's also available in the Kindle format for those like you who maybe live in places where it's not possible to purchase the hard card.
Definitely get it. I didn't know it was available on Kindle. I'll definitely go get it.
It's available on Kindle because you have, of course, I prefer paper, and we have it there. It's great. It has, but I know that for some people maybe Kindle is more convenient. So it's the Zagami Family Cookbook, and you can find it on Amazon. And my books are all on Kindle also for those who want to purchase it on Kindle. But of course, if you want to place the physical copy under the tree, and then maybe send me a copy of the pic, I invite all my Italians. They all put the copy of the book under the tree, and it becomes like. Actually, they brought these people who bring this book in front of the Vatican and make a pic with it in front of Facebook. It's quite interesting. It's quite interesting what happens because they create,
I'll join you with that, Leo. I'll join you.
I make an example. Like for example, this is one of the hundreds of pics that I have received lately regarding my book, so you can share it with the audience. Here it is.
I'll meet you on Christmas Eve in front of the Vatican.
See if you can share it because there is I put it on the thing below. See if you can share it. You can show it to the audience. I put a pic, one of the many pics.
Here we go.
This is an example. This is one of the examples. I have hundreds of examples Leo Zagami book present under the Christmas tree to make the world more aware and less mind control. God bless you all and take care, guys. Have a great Christmas. Merry Christmas to you all.
It's unwrapped. It's unwrapped.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love it. Leo, you're so funny. Guys, thank you so much. It's wonderful to chat with you all. Wonderful hanging out again on my Friday night, to have a date with you all on a Friday night. Take it easy. God bless you all. I shall see you on Sunday. Love you madly. Bye, everyone.
Bye.